Hello and welcome. This is a podcast where I talk about whatever I want. I'm Johnnie and I'm a librarian. Let's talk about music. So, some thoughts on music and libraries and the future of things. So, I grew up in the era of tapes, and it wasn't until about 1990, 1991 CDs became the thing. But during the 80s, there were also 45s that were easily bought, and LPs, the 12-inch records. And I did have a few of those, but I had a few 45s as well, a bunch of them. And but most of my albums that I wanted were on tape. So Madonna, Cyndi Lauper, who else? I mean, in the 80s, I was more pop, and in the 90s, I was more R&B. So Michael Jackson, of course, things like that. And I still do buy some CDs. I do. Some people are very pro physical media, and I'm kind of old school in that respect. Because physical media, you get a new CD, you open it up, you see what does the CD look like? Is there a picture on it? You look at the booklet, the artwork. It's very tactile. In fact, a very tactile thing. And I still have CDs. I think I had at one point about 300 CDs. Now I'm down to maybe a little over 100. I still will not throw away some of my CDs. There's like memories attached to them. There really is. But lately it's been, some CDs, but records. I've been buying records. I have, maybe, I think maybe 130 records. People I really like Pet Shop Boys, Madonna, Nina Simone, Goldfrapp. I buy their vinyl. And I've paid, over $100 for, special vinyl, because I think there's something about very tactile. Again, pulling the record out, being careful with the record, putting it on your turntable, putting the needle down, listening to this music. And I actually prefer new records than old used records because the pops and the I want to control my records and I want to I want to control my sound and I'm very particular. Like, I don't like lending my material, whether it's a Blu-ray or a CD or DVD or even a book. I don't like to lend them out. I don't know. I'm really particular about that. So growing up, CDs finally came around, and of course there was Columbia House, BMG. I was a big Columbia House person. I'd close my account, then get 10 more, and then close it again, and then get 10 more. That was the thrill of getting 10 all at once, or maybe sometimes 8 or so. They didn't always do 10 CDs. They may have done 12 at one period of time. But it was, an interesting time, music. And I would play CDs all the time. I had my Discman. When did I get my first Discman? Probably, it had been a while. I remember getting my first CD player. I believe it was 92? Yeah, maybe 1992 or 93. Maybe 1993. With the Bodyguard soundtrack, Madonna's Erotica album, Michael Jackson's Dangerous. I remember getting those on CD. And I actually remember buying the day it came out, the Madonna Erotica tape, going there the day of. That was exciting. The first CD I ever saw was in person and touched it was Paula Abdul's, her first album. I think it was Straight Up. I forget. But I saw that and I'm like, oh my God, what is this? I had an uncle that had a CD player, like, I think it was 1989 or something. He was big into music. That was kind of crazy for me. To see this CD and like, wow, high quality music, and really CD quality music. It is really good. The way it's encoded. Even tapes. the problem with the tape players are they're cruddy. They're not very good. But tapes are actually quite good at the quality of the sound. I think people learned that over the course of the 80s and 90s, mass-produced tape players were just cruddy and just not very good for magnetic tape, even though magnetic tape will degrade eventually. CD media is kind of fixed on that aluminum layer. So digital music, for me, came about, I remember there was LimeWire, but there was Napster, Real Radio, the Real Player Radio. I remember that. I remember listening to, I think Madonna had curated a station for Real Radio Player for her movie she was in with Rupert Everett, and Beth Orton's Stars All Seem to Weep was on, and I was like, oh my God, I love this song. And that really got me interested into Beth Orton. I think she's pretty amazing. But it was so neat to hear it coming through my computer. And now there's a really cool, if you're into like old school, old-timey programs like, oh wow, Lone Ranger, oh wow, there's a bunch of them. Antioch Radio is great for listening to old-timey, well, I say old-timey, I believe from the 40s and 50s, maybe the 30s, radio programs. They're very interesting, very entertaining, and the voice work is pretty cool. But the internet, the digital way of listening to music, it took me a while to really jump. I have Apple Music now, and they just introduced Apple Classical Music, which if you buy the Apple Music plan, you get that. It's really done well. I remember ripping all of my CDs into iTunes, just ripping them. It takes like maybe 5 minutes to rip a CD. But now you can just, if you have Apple Music as a subscription, you can just, pop into it and save it, and you got it. You can stream it on any Bluetooth device into your car. That's crazy. You don't even have to have the album, but I still buy my albums. I think the next one I'm looking forward to is the Everything But the Girl. They have a new album. I absolutely love them. Joni Mitchell's Archives 3, it should be out, I hope, this year, the CD version. They're her archives, because I think that's one of her most prolific periods, the Asylum years. So I'm excited about that. And yeah, Spotify, and Pandora. I'm partial to Spotify free. I mean, you can just curate your own lists, with ads. Of course, you could pay for it, but I listen to Spotify at work, in my car, Apple Music, at home, Apple Music, or whatever I feel like. Of course, my records, too. I upgraded my record player last year. I had a Denon, I forgot how to say that, the 300F, which is fully automatic. But now I have a Technics 1500. I love it. I've got a Grado stylus. Grado's awesome. I love Grado products. But yeah, the records right now, I love how they're being reissued. The last ones I bought were the Prince Hits 1 and 2. And I love how they're in different colors. That's so cool to me. Like the cream colored or the green. I pre-ordered the new Everything But the Girl Fuse album in green. I pre-ordered the Pet Shop Boys Smash. It's I think it's six records in white, limited edition on their website. The one thing I regret last year when Madonna's the 50 hits came out, she was selling the record, the full 50 song thing on her website in black and red vinyl, and I was like, I don't think I'll get it later. Nope, sold out, can't get it anymore. I did buy the silver, smaller edition. But yeah, music has changed so much as far as physical media. But if you like someone, buy their stuff, their physical media. It's just cool, flipping through the booklets. I remember opening a cassette tape and flipping out the little thing, and it's like, it's like a receipt, like a Rite Aid receipt. It's so long, and looking at the lyrics, that's really not around anymore. It's lost, and so much time and effort goes into making that and putting it together. I remember Madonna's Like a Prayer album, the smell of the patchouli, and I have the original vinyl, and it smells like patchouli. It's interesting. The cassette did too. It's just very tactile thing to touch it, and to feel like it's it's a physical item. Yeah, I don't know so a thought experiment for music. I have a wish list of like things I want on Blu-ray or 4K, because I do love physical media. I have a wish list of vinyl records. So what vinyl records, if you were into vinyl records, or even maybe there's stuff that's not even on CD. I know a lot of classical stuff is still not on CD. What do you wish would be on physical media?
Sorry, there's nothing to repeat.
I have no idea what Siri wanted. But what in the world?
Sorry.
Siri, be quiet. I have my phone in my pocket, and that's one of the things that's... I didn't even say anything about her. If I say her name, she'll pop up. We live in this digital world where everything's just at our fingertips. But sometimes it's nice to slow down, get a glass of wine, a mixed drink, put on a record, listen to the record, stop it, flip it over. I go on eBay a lot just to look for stuff, see if there's anything out there I want to get. But there's also Discogs, Discogs, which is a great place to record what vinyl albums you have, see what they're going for. There's also a marketplace, and I've bought a few there. Last thing I bought on eBay was the Fantasia soundtrack. I think I bought the 1960s or 50s version. It's 3 discs and has this lovely booklet that's inside of the vinyl, the record sleeve. Really cool. I grew up with the Fantasia soundtrack, so it really brings back memories. But there's a lot of pops and clicks, and I cleaned it. They're still there though, not as many, but again, that's to hear that crackle and pop brings back memories of me playing records when I was little. They were always scratched and poppy, and it was not very, very cared for. But I'm very careful with my records now. I replace the inner sleeve with a plastic non-static one. I put my records in polyvinyl sleeves to keep them in good shape. Maybe at some point I might sell some, but to keep them in good shape for me, even though they really don't move off their shelf. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 shelves with them scattered on them. My record's the tactile thing of the record, the tactile, feeling it. That's the big thing. That's the big thing that I think is good for me. The nostalgia, I really have no nostalgia for cassettes. As frustrated as I always get with cassettes and things eating them, and then you pull it out and it's destroyed. But damn if I can't still pop open a cassette tape, rewind it with a pen and put it back together, screw it back together. If it's crinkled, that's not good. But if it's been spit out, I had to do that a few years ago with an archival cassette that was recorded. I had to fix it, and I opened it up. Even the plastic ones, I was really good at. The ones that were glued. You turn it on its end. You take a hammer and you go pap pap. Turn it over, pap pap, and it usually splits open very well. And then you use tape just to tape it back together, just so you'll salvage the tape. But I remember in the 80s going down the road and you'd see like silvery gray eels on the median where people had thrown cassette stuff out of the window of their car because they were so frustrated with their car eating the tape, and they just pull it out and just sling it out the window. um, I remember that, and I'm like, why are so many people frustrated with this, with cassette tapes? Are they that faulty? And that in itself is problematic. CDs get scratched. You can get them repaired. I know we have a repair machine in the library. And that brings me to sort of the library world. So we have Naxos, which is a streaming service for classical music. We don't really have anything else as far as music goes. We might have some opera, but there might be video attached to it as far as streaming material. But we still have maybe about 500 CDs. I would say half are out of print. I've decided not to weed our collection much, but we have some. They hardly ever get checked out. They really, I would say at the most, maybe 5 a year at my library. We do still have faculty that donate CDs of like school band performances from around the country that they get, and things like that. We have some spoken word CDs. No audiobooks, though. We just don't do audiobooks. It's more of a public library thing. And I've never really been into audiobooks. I think it's cool. I have listened to a few in my car in the past, but I'd rather read a book. I'd rather listen to a podcast than a book, unless it's some. I think the last book I listened to was, I think, a Sherlock Holmes, and I've also listened to The Handmaid's Tale as an audiobook, but I've read it several times. I just wanted to see what the audiobook was like, and I really liked the audiobook. I'd already read the book. I thought it was, kind of cool to hear it. So music really has, our library does not actively buy. We still buy DVDs and Blu-rays, mainly Blu-rays, 4K stuff, but it's not like it used to be. Maybe we buy 200 titles a year at the most. It used to be maybe 600 titles. Now it's like 200 at the most. And CDs, we do not actively buy CDs. And of course, records. We have a few records, special edition records that we've kept or bought. Are they checked out? They aren't. DVDs are starting to not really be checked out either. Blu-ray, it's somewhat okay, steady. But the changing landscape of digital media and consumer listening, I think it's settling down, and people are finding comfort in the nostalgia. That's why you can go into a Barnes & Noble or a Target or a Walmart, and there are records that you can buy. Popular artists also have cassette versions of their recent stuff that you can buy. The last thing I bought that had a cassette attached to it was Radiohead's "Okay Not Okay." Was it 2017 maybe? With a reissue of "OK Computer." It came with a cassette, as well as the records. So I think in that nostalgia, people find comfort, and they like and enjoy that part of physical media. But what do you think? So those are my thoughts, and thank you for listening.